Almost everyone who goes into the entertainment industry has a dream show, movie, series, book, game, whatever it may be that they want to create. And I'm no different. Lately, I've been trying to decide what will be my next focus, what will be the next big project that I choose to make into a reality. And I was going back and forth between the many projects I developed over the years. And some projects I knew that I simply wasn't ready for, or I didn't have the skills or resources to make it be everything that I imagined it could be and to the quality I envisioned for it. So I just sat with this constant frustration of not knowing which way I should go. But now I've finally come to a decision, and I know that this project will be a very special one for me personally. And hopefully, when this project becomes what I envisioned it to be, it will leave an impact on someone out there someday. Now, how I actually came to this definite decision was actually due to me just taking a step back from thinking about these big grand plans and projects that oftentimes overload my mind and choosing to go back to simply drawing for the sake of drawing. Going back to creating for myself and not concerning myself with whether or not the drawing is perfect, or sometimes even if the drawing is finished, and not worried about whether I was going to post whatever I made or not. Since I finished my animated avatar project, that's what I've been doing. Drawing things and characters I wanted to draw without concerning myself on whether I'm going to move forward with these characters or stories, just being in the moment, drawing what I found to be enjoyable. Along with this, I started to go back to the things that fuel my creativity like video games, books, shows, and movies. But surprisingly, when I started to play my favorite games, I found myself turning off my system only a few minutes in. And even if I did stay on for longer, I wasn't fully immersed in what I was doing. I was just mindlessly completing tasks with no real thought or desire to do them. Honestly, just wasting time. Even when I rewatched my favorite shows and movies, I would cut them off halfway through because it didn't grab my attention like it usually does. Until one day I was told that, surprisingly, all of the Spider-Man movies are up on Disney+. And for me, it was a while before I watched all the Spider-Man movies. And don't hate me in the comments for this, but I had never seen a single Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movie all the way through. So I decided that I was going to sit down and watch some Spider-Man. Now, at my core, I am an all-time Batman fan, but Spider-Man is always a close second to Batman. And while I do love Batman as a character, there is something about who Spider-Man is and what he stands for and how people see him that is honestly very unique to him. I'm not saying there aren't other heroes that symbolize the same kinds of things that Spider-Man does, but Spider-Man himself just stands out of the crowd apart from everyone else. When I watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, and for the first time watched the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and even Tom Holland's trilogy, I for the first time in a while was completely captivated by what I was watching. And it wasn't because I was looking at the movies in a new way aside from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. It was because those movies were simply amazing movies. And those movies are as good as they are because of the character of Spider-Man and who he is as a person. Yes, Superman is seen as this unbreakable, immovable symbol of hope and peace, but Spider-Man is just a kid who is given an unbelievable responsibility and gets constantly knocked down time after time and has to sacrifice so much more than anyone ever should. And yet he still keeps going. He still keeps trying no matter the odds, and there are times when he walks away from that responsibility, but because of who he is inside, he always comes back because that's the right thing to do, even if it's the hardest thing to do. Now, for what I'm about to say, I'm not knocking any of these shows or movies, but I feel nowadays some writers have gotten obsessed with this realism aspect of superheroes. But the reason I believe superheroes were such a sensation during the golden era of comics is because of the fantastical elements to them. They weren't all gritty and grounded, even though there were a few that were. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't see the more bright, colorful, and hopeful heroes like I did when I was a kid. And I'm sure someone out there can agree with me. The fantastical part has always been my favorite thing about superheroes because they aren't just for themselves, they stand for something more than themselves. They make people want to be better. The kind of heroes that create unity instead of division. And that's something I think the world really needs right now. And I want to bring that to people. And that's why I decided to create my own superhero universe, starting with this flagship character, Rift. Now, Rift is a character that I've been developing for a few years now, but he's never been given the focus and priority he deserves. But looking back, I think that's alright, because now I believe I can make him into a character I believe he should be, and give him the amount of time and energy his story deserves. If I had to compare him to any other characters in fiction, you guys can most likely guess one of them would be Spider-Man. But I didn't want to just make a Spider-Man clone, so I had to give him different struggles, different obstacles he will need to deal with and overcome to set him apart from Peter. I also drew inspiration from an assortment of characters I believe best embodied the ideals and beliefs a character like Rift would have. So think of characters like Nightwing, The Flash, and even Batman in some cases. A character who stands for something more than himself, who gives people hope for a better future, but who is willing to not only save lives, but take the time to interact with people to let them know that they're seen and give them encouragement during difficult times. And also a person who can still make the hard decisions if he needs to. I won't go into too much detail about who Rift is in this video, because that deserves its own separate video in the future. I just want to take the opportunity to give you all a glimpse into what I will be focusing on now and in the future. Now, I know from the title of this video it says I'm creating my own anime series, and while that is true to a point, it's not what I'm doing right now at this very moment. Because if I'm being honest, I can't create a full-on animated series to the quality I want it to be at by myself if I want to continue enjoying my life. But everything I do, every project I make, no matter how small, is building towards making this animated series a reality. Until someday I have the knowledge on what it takes to create a series of this scale, and hopefully a team who believe in the story I want to tell and the universe I want to create and share with others. And I know there may be some people that believe that superhero fatigue is taking over, but I disagree. I believe that some people's disillusionment with certain superhero media is due to the fact that, in my personal opinion, they are telling stories that just aren't worth telling, and are going for spectacle and pandering more than they are substance. And that's why people are starting to step away from the genre. But I believe people are still waiting for those stories we had when we were growing up, watching Spider-Man or Teen Titans, Justice League, and all the other great heroes that made us fans in the first place. I only hope I can deliver that kind of enjoyment and love with this story and this universe, and I hope you all will stick around to see it become a reality. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.